Hello everyone. Excuse me. If you guys are watching this video, it means that I was unable to make it to our class, and I'm so sorry. It probably means that I'm in the hospital having my baby, so hopefully things are going good. Okay, so today, if I'm unable to make it, I have made a video to explain how to make this awesome hippo up here. Okay, so you're going to want to have a pencil with an eraser and then some coloring utensils. Excuse me. So I picked colored pencils for mine, but if you want to use other things, you can. Okay, so I like to make sure I have a black coloring pencil for outlining at the end. But I'll probably end up using a marker to outline some of this so you guys can see it better. But first we're going to do it in pencil. Okay, so I'm going to bring this a bit closer so you guys can see. Try and get this angled. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to draw our hippo. So right in here, a little bit above the bottom of my paper that's in this portrait style, I'm going to draw a decently big circle or like oval shape for the body. Alright, so we want it to come up pretty far, come down decently far. I made mine a little bit more like flattened on the bottom and more pointed at the top, more like an egg shape. But however works best for you. So I'm going to go in, let's see, and do an oval. Here, let me go ahead and make that darker. So you guys can see it better. Okay. So, about like that. Alright. And that's the great thing about using a pencil with an eraser, right? Because if you have extra lines, you can always erase them. Now what we're going to do with our hippo is right down in here. Let's see, I'm going to bring that down and even it out a little bit more. That's better. It's kind of hard to do this sideways and while looking on a camera instead of at my paper. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we are going to draw its legs. So coming down below my hippo, I have some smaller legs, right? I have my front legs. They're a little bit wider at the top, and then they come down a bit more narrow at the bottom. So I'm going to add in legs. Hold on. I gotta turn this sideways so I can actually see what I'm doing. Okay. There we go. You want them to end about the same spot. Doesn't have to be perfect, but mine were really wonky. So those are the front legs. Okay. Now behind them, either on the inside or the outside, we're going to do the back legs. So it'd be kind of like this shape, but cut short. Right, so I'm going to have it come up a little bit higher and end higher than my first leg. The other side, I'm going to do the same thing. Okay, so there are my back legs. Now what we're going to do, and if you want to, like, you can add in the little upside down U shapes, those little, or like toes. But then, after we have the legs, next we're going to go in, and before we forget, we're going to draw a ground for our hippo to be standing on, so it's not just floating, right? So in this picture, we can see the rest of the hippo's body in the water. Now, when we draw our ground, we don't want it to be right on these bottom legs because then the back legs will be floating up in the air, right? So we want our ground to come up at least as high as the back legs, if not slightly higher. Okay. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to, oh no, my pencil broke. But we're going to do a line that goes across. And when we do that line that goes across, it's not going to be in front of the hippo because my hippo is standing on the ground. So where the hippo is, it's going to go behind it. It's going to disappear. This pencil sharpener does not like me. Good enough. Okay. So right back in here, and instead of having a line that goes under the belly, you can definitely do that, but I figured it would just be easier to go up a little bit higher. It doesn't have to be perfectly straight because it's dirt, right? So it can be kind of bumpy. Or slanted. Okay. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to do the head for our hippo. So before I do the head that comes up above the body, like this one, over here you can see it kind of sticks up a little ways. I'm going to do that nose, which is almost kind of like a peanut shape, right? So it's towards the top or like the middle, between the middle and the top. So it's going to curve in, and it's going to come down like a peanut shape, right? So it curves in on the bottom and the top middle. Now, right below that, which is actually the snout, it's going to be like the nose and the mouth together. We have his little, or her, his or her little chin. So I'm going to do a line that comes down just a little. Okay. Next, after we have that part, we're going to go in. We're going to add in the nostrils. So there's two nostrils, those holes that you breathe through. And they're a little bit more of like a half circle shape. You can go do them like straight on the bottom and then up, or you can have them leaning inwards just a little bit. Kind of like that. On the inside of that, there's another smaller half circle shape for the opening. Okay. So our nostrils. Now we're going to add in the hippo's head. So it's pretty tall. It comes up a little ways above the body. If your snout was a little bit higher, it might come up a little bit higher. But on either side here, just right in on that curve, not quite from the outside edges, I'm going to have the head come up. And it's going to angle slightly inside, almost like a rectangle. a little bit more of a trapezoid. Mine's pretty tall, so I actually might have it come out a little bit wider. Okay, so the top of the head overlapped with the top of the body right here. That's why we want to use the pencil and eraser first. It's not only for those extra lines, like you can see that I've been erasing my extra lines because I'm sketching, right? Like maybe I'll erase some extra lines in here. But this line is going to disappear, so I'm going to erase that. Because the back is behind the top of the head. Now, right inside the face, we have another similar shape to this big one for the head. That's like the bridge of the nose, right? This part right in here. The bridge of the nose. So I'll have that come up a little ways. And I'm going to add in 2 circles for the eyes. I do them decently big. Right, we don't want tiny little beady eyes. Okay, so those are the overall circles for our eyes. But then our hippo, it has like eyelids. In my hippo, they're a little bit like slanted inwards towards each other. If you want, you can have them, you know, slanted this way. You can have them slanted this way or just straight across. But I go in and I do my top eyelid by adding in a curve. Right, and then on the bottom, another little curve. So you have like this little part that, here, I'll make this one a little bit bigger. Right, so this will actually be like the opening for the eye. And inside of that, I have a circle. Kind of makes the hippo look like it's squinting at you. Okay. If you want, you can do it now or you could add it in later on. But when I do eyes, as we've talked about before, I like to do that little white dot inside of it so that it looks a little bit more realistic. So you could draw it or you can just remember to leave a white dot when we color in the eyes later. Then, right up here, towards the top of the head, we have some ears. Right, they're kind of pointed, not super big. They're pretty small compared to the rest of our hippo. Okay. Now those are the basic things that we're going to want in our artwork. Our hippo and our ground. Now if you want, you can add in other stuff. Right, like if you want there to be fish, like in that one over there I have a school of fish swimming. Or you could do some bigger fish. Maybe I want to have this big guy over here. Swimming past my hippo. It's kind Give it a beady little eye. Right, or maybe I want a fish swimming towards my hippo, but like turning. So I'll do it more angled. Give it a couple little beady eyes. And more like a mouth. Okay. About good enough. All right. If you want to, when you're adding these things in, just remember how high you want your water to come. Like in my hippo back there, my water came up above the nose, or you could have it be down lower too. It's up to you. All right. You could add in like rocks. Down on the bottom. Maybe I want there to be like little pebbles. I like to make my rocks all weird looking and bumpy and stuff. You could add in a sun, something up in the sky. I decided to give a little bird on my hippo's head. Right, so if you wanted to like add in a bird or something, just kind of hanging out up there, you could also do that. Just have some fun with it. You don't need to super many things. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there. And I'm going to go ahead and I would color before you do your outlining and stuff. But so that you guys can actually see a bit better what I've done, I'm going to go in and I'm going to outline first. And I'm going to go ahead and use a marker. In that one, I used a colored pencil. Okay. So, let's see. Into my head. Nostrils, my mouth, fish. Ground, my legs, all of the things that were once in pencil, I'm going to do outlined. Okay. Oh, my ears, my little bird. Okay. There we go. Now you guys can see it better. If you wanted to, you could also like give your hippo some eyelashes or something like that. I just made mine pretty long. That's okay. Okay. So, once we have our hippo outlined, next what we're going to do is we're going to start coloring. I'm going to get rid of some of these pencil lines. So with coloring in the hippo, I like to use colors like blues and purples. Okay, those are some pretty classic hippo colors. You could also use greens and pinks. Right. And I like to pick what I want the most color to be. So like in that one up there is mostly like purples and blues. I think I'm just going to do the same thing in this hippo. Go get that added in. Okay. So I like to start out with some smaller spaces first. So let's see. Let's do our snout first. So for mine, I picked pink. Right. So I'm going to go in with my pink. And I'm going to color. Alright, I do my best to get rid of all of that white. If you want to use crayons or markers or something else instead, you can. If you're in your classroom, double check with your teacher on that one of what they want you to use. Okay, so I colored in my snout and my chin with pink. Now, in this project, we'll talk about something optional and fun that you can do, which would be shading, right? So all of this, I just press down like with the same pressure, right? Which is like how hard we're pressing. And if you wanted to, you could make the outside parts of your nostrils, or excuse me, of your snout a little bit darker to make it seem more rounded by pressing down a little bit harder. Alright, notice how I'm like following the shape of my snout while I do this, instead of just going back and forth like this. Right, so I'm going around, doing curved, nice and curved. And pressing down harder towards the outside to make it a little bit darker. You can also do shading with another color and layer colors on top. Like maybe if I wanted to go in with some purple right below where my like the nose goes above the chin, so right down there would be a shadow, right? You could do the same thing on the outer edges. Of your nose with something like purple and add in a couple different shades to give it more shading and dimension. You don't have to. Totally up to you. Alright, maybe I want the bottom part of my eyelids to be pink. And maybe I want the toes and my feet to be pink. And you can pick other colors. Right. Now, if you're coloring and you want a lighter purple, right, so in mine I have this light purple and then darker purple around it, but I didn't have a light purple colored pencil. So a fun trick you can do is I took a white pencil and I colored this in really good with white first, and I did it really, really good because I couldn't really see where I was coloring. So just for extra measure, I made sure to go over it a couple times to make sure I filled the whole thing in. Alright, and then on top of that, you can add in a color like purple. That's kind of a different kind of purple. But you can see that where I'm going across it, hold on, I guess you can't really see that because my camera isn't as good as I'd like it to be. Okay, can you see where that white is, where it's lighter, and where I didn't put white on the sides, it's darker, right? So that's another option, something you could do. You could also even, if you wanted to, you could go in and do white on top. Right, and smooth it out even more. You could do a few layers. Get it in there. Now when you're doing the face, kind of like we did with the snout, you can add in shading in there, right? If you wanted to do it more dark and rounded up at the top or around the outside edges, or even a little bit under the eyes. You can combine colors if you want. So maybe I want some of that purple and then another shade of purple, or maybe I want some pink in there. Okay, so you can combine colors with your colored pencils. Maybe I'll do like a dark blue for the top of the eyelids. Maybe I'll do a little bit darker at the top of the ears with purple underneath. Right, so you can combine colors. Okay, so now got your snout, your head, your eyes, and then we're going to go in and we're going to do our body, right? So just like before, if you want to do shading, you can do shading. I like to do it along the curve instead of like back and forth like this, okay? Or back and forth like that. So I like to follow the curve. I press down harder, not so hard that I'm going to break my brush, or not my brush, but my pencil. But I press down a little bit harder right on that outside edge. And then as I go in and follow the curve, I start to press down lighter and lighter and lighter. Okay, and that is how I would add in some shading into the body so that it adds to like that rounded look of my hippo. Right, so I'll do this side too. Right over here. Do it nice and dark. Making sure not to color my fish. And then as I move in, I get a little lighter and lighter. Okay. Another thing I like to shade is like underneath my face. So you can go in and do a little shadow down there. You can have that one get lighter and lighter. You could do shading with the legs, so the top is a little bit darker and it gets lighter, right? Because the legs will be underneath the body, maybe furthest from the sun. And these back legs would be even darker because those would be like further away from us. So I like to just make the whole back leg like really dark. It also helps the legs to be like apart from each other. And then I'll go in, I'm going to layer in another color. I added some purple. Right. And just really color that in and go curve, 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 curve. While I'm coloring to help keep that rounded shape of my hippo. I'm doing my best to really kind of fill in, get rid of that white. I'll do some purple on my legs down here. You could add some other colors, right? If you wanted to try out a different kind of like blue. Oh, that's neat. Right? So you can kind of, especially with colored pencils, you can really layer them on top of each other. Especially colors that mix together really well, like blues and purples and pinks. Also reds, you know, because it's blue and red make purple. Red and white make pink. Maybe I'll do a little bit of pink in here too, just for fun. Oh, the colors! Oh, the colors! At this point, I have so many layers, and you can see my brush strokes that I'm just kind of going in the opposite direction to fill in some of those empty white spaces. Okay. All right. So I have my hippo colored in. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go in and we're going to color the ground and any other extra things that you had in your background. So like with my fish, maybe I'll do some like oranges, browns, some yellows. Again, if you do like your darker color, maybe along the belly and the top. you could also, add in things like patterns, like maybe my fish has some scales and lines in the tail. And you can go in color with another color in there. So I'm going to add in some orange. And I think I'm also going to add in some yellow. Just right on top in there. You can also even add in like little speckles of something extra, like if you wanted some red. Okay. So just to show you that you can do shading, you can do layers, you can overlap. You could do a few different colors combined together in order to make it look even more detailed. Usually with color pencils, I'll start out with like my darker ones and go lighter. But if you're using something like markers, I definitely start with my light and then I get darker. Okay, so I got my fish. I'll do my birdie up here. I started with my light color, but that's okay. It was just what was in my hand. Dropped my pencil. Oh no. Okay, well, that might just have to live on the floor now. Got a new one. Keep going. Okay. Now, for your ground, you could do that as more of like a gray or brown. You could do more greens. You could do a little bit of both if you wanted to. I have some tape over here, so it's kind of... Here, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to bring this over here while I color that. If you want, you can also add in a shadow underneath your hippo. Right, so right now I'm just doing my ground all the same pressure just to get it filled in. But you could also you can press down medium or lightly, just a little bit, or only kind of hard. And then right underneath your hippo, excuse me, right underneath your hippo, you can press down harder with more pressure. All right, underneath the feet. Underneath the body. To add in more of a shadow. Okay, good. Sorry, my screen goes black after a while, so I just wanted to make sure you guys could see that okay. Okay. So, I'm going to color in my rocks here, and then we're going to talk about the water. Oh, if you want to, in your ground, you could always add in like little bits of green, because we've been talking about layering these. Right, so you can add in some green tints, like there's algae or moss on the like river or lake bed. You could also go in and do like little lines going up, like there's grass. Or you can add in some like plants coming off of your ground. A little bit more for your hippos to graze on. You could do shadows. If you do a shadow underneath your hippo, and if you have rocks, I would probably do some shadows under my rocks, just so that it matches and doesn't look weird. So you would do that by pressing down harder right underneath the rocks. Okay. I don't really do a shadow below my fish because they're floating a bit more above, so the shadow would be like distorted. Okay, and then I'm going to do my rocks. Now, I don't have a gray colored pencil, so I am going to go in and do the same kind of thing I did up in my bridge of my nose, where I color white first, and then color over it with black. Okay, and the softer you press down, the lighter it's going to be, right? So if you don't have gray, you can kind of make more of a gray color. You could also do like browns and stuff. This pencil is just like so mad at me. It keeps breaking, so I gotta fix it. You could add in some lines that come in on the sides for that, if you wanted to make it look like there was more texture in your rocks. That's a little bit better. right? So sometimes, oh my gosh, why? Okay, hold on. Hold the phone. I swear I had to have had another black one. I did not. So, maybe what I'll do then is I'll use a crayon. Shove it down. I'm going to go in with a little bit of crayon. Get these kind of gray. Okay, there. And then I'll do back to like a colored pencil. And maybe I'll do it with like a dark green. Oh, of course. No. Same black one. Thing's evil. Okay. Dark green. Alright, so sometimes with rocks, right around the outside edge, I'll do some shading. And then I'll bring some lines in that are curved. It's kind of harder to see. Let me just show you on this one. Okay, so you see where I have like some lines coming in from the sides right in here and over here, so it looks like layered rock. That can make your rock look a little bit more realistic. Okay, I'm going to set this right back up here. And maybe. Okay. Oh, and we got to do our nostrils. Don't forget about those. Alright, now the last thing to do would be to add in our water. Okay, so for my water, I use a blue. You can use more of like a teal, like a greenish blue. You can use a green. You can use some other colors or a combination of colors. But I picked where I want my water line to come across. If there's stuff in your water, you want it above that. If there's stuff in the air, you want it below that. It doesn't have to be perfectly straight. You can have it be a little bit wavy because it is water. But I think I'm going to do mine right about here. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to press down decently hard to get a line going across where my water is. Okay, so that is my water line. And I can even go in and I'll take like a pen and I'll add in just a little bit more to that line so you guys can see it better. Okay, so that is the top of my water. And then going down below, it's going to be, a lot darker right at the top there. But down below, I'm going to go in and I am going to just color in everything from there down with blue. Okay, even on top of my hippo. So it looks more like it is underwater. Top of my fish, top of my rocks, my around everything. If you prefer not to color on top of your fish, if they're like a really light color, you don't have to. Oops. I want, darn thing. I want everything to appear like it is underwater and have at least like a slightly bluish tint going on. Right, so I have a little bit more right in here. Shabam! If you want to add in more, like up in the sky, up above, you can definitely do that. You don't have to. Alright? And that is our project. Okay, so have fun with it. Great thing about this being a video is that you can pause and start. If you need to like take a minute and look at what I did or rewind it, back it up, whatever have you. Alright, so don't forget to sign your art, put your name on it. Ask your teacher if they want your name on the front or the back. And I look forward to seeing you guys again soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.